I was standing in my cousin's kitchen at her engagement party when her fiancé walked up to me and said the 5 words that would destroy her perfect evening. "We need to talk. Outside. Now." His face was pale, sweating. His hands were shaking so badly he had to put down his champagne glass. And across the room, my cousin Amanda was showing off her 3-carat engagement ring to our aunts, completely oblivious to the fact that her meticulously planned life was about to implode. She had no idea that her fiancé, the Harvard-educated lawyer she'd been parading around for months, recognized me, knew exactly who I was, remembered details she didn't know existed, and he was about to confess something that would validate every single relationship choice she'd spent the last decade mocking me for making. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Emma Harper. I'm 30 years old, and my cousin Amanda has spent the last 10 years making absolutely certain that I understood every relationship decision I made was fundamentally wrong. Not subtly, not with gentle concern, loudly, publicly, with the absolute, unshakable certainty of someone who believed she'd cracked the code to finding the perfect life partner. Amanda is exactly my age. We were born 3 weeks apart. We grew up together in the same small town. Same family gatherings every Sunday. Same holiday dinners where our grandmother would ask when we were getting married. Same expectations from a family that valued traditional success above everything else. But we took dramatically different approaches to relationships, to life, to everything. Amanda dated methodically. She had an actual written checklist. I'm not exaggerating. She showed it to me once. Education level, graduate degree required. Career trajectory, minimum income threshold. Family background, social connections, political affiliation, religious compatibility, even physical characteristics, height, build, hair color preferences. Every man she dated had to meet specific, measurable criteria. She talked about relationships the way other people talked about hiring employees. Due diligence, compatibility assessment, long-term return on investment, risk analysis. And it worked for her, sort of. She dated men with impressive resumes, doctors from good medical schools, lawyers from top-tier firms, finance professionals at major banks, consultants at McKinsey and Bain, men who looked extraordinary on paper and sounded impressive when announced at family dinners. The relationships typically lasted 6 to 18 months. Always ended with Amanda citing some incompatibility. He wanted kids too soon. He didn't want kids at all. He wasn't ambitious enough. He was too focused on work. He didn't share her vision for the future. Then she'd update her checklist, add new criteria, refine her requirements, and start the process over. My approach. I dated completely differently. I dated people I connected with, people who made me laugh until I couldn't breathe, people who challenged my thinking, people who shared my values about what mattered in life. Sometimes they had impressive careers. Sometimes they were still figuring things out. Sometimes relationships lasted years. Sometimes they lasted months. And Amanda had loud, public opinions about every single one of them. When I dated a high school teacher named Marcus in my mid-20s, Amanda's response was immediate and devastating. "A teacher? Emma, be realistic. Do you know what teachers make? $38,000 a year. You'll be struggling to pay rent forever. Is that really the life you want? I'm not dating his salary, I'm dating him. You should be thinking about your future, about building something. Financial stability isn't romantic, but it matters a lot. He's passionate about education. He's making a difference. He's making poverty wages. There's a difference." She said this at Sunday dinner, in front of our entire family. Made sure everyone heard her concerns about my poor judgment, about my inability to think long-term, about my naive romanticism. When I dated a musician named Jake, someone who played guitar at coffee shops and small venues, while working a day job at a music store, Amanda was even more brutal. This is actually embarrassing. You're 27 years old. You should be dating someone with a real career, someone with actual potential, not some wannabe rock star who lives in a basement apartment. He's talented. He's building a following. He's 30 years old and works retail. That's not building a following. That's called delusion. Emma, you're settling. You could do so much better if you just raise your standards. Better meant richer, more credentialed, more impressive to announce at family events, more likely to provide the life our grandmother talked about. The house in the suburbs, the 2-car garage, the country club membership. When I dated a doctoral student named David, who was working on his PhD in environmental science, Amanda actually laughed in my face. He's still in school? At 32? When is he going to get a real job and start contributing to society? He's doing groundbreaking research on climate change mitigation, research that pays him $22,000 a year on a graduate stipend. He's a professional student. He's avoiding the real world. He's building expertise. He's building debt. He'll be 40 before he makes real money. You'll be supporting him for years. Is that what you want? To be the breadwinner while he plays scientist? She said these things loudly, publicly, at family barbecues, during holiday parties, at my birthday dinner. Made sure everyone within earshot understood that I was making terrible choices, that I was wasting my potential, that I was settling for men who would never provide the life I deserved. And our family absorbed this narrative, believed it. Our aunts would nod sympathetically and whisper about my poor judgment. Our grandmother would pat my hand and gently suggest I should be more selective. Our parents would exchange worried glances whenever I mentioned a new relationship. Meanwhile, Amanda dated men who checked all her boxes, and she made certain everyone knew exactly how impressive they were. I'm seeing someone new. His name is Jonathan. He's a cardiologist at University Hospital, Johns Hopkins for medical school. Just bought a house in Riverside, the good part of town, with the historic homes. His family has a vacation property in Martha's Vineyard. I'm dating a corporate attorney named Michael. He's on the partner track at Whitmore and Associates, Columbia Law School. His father is a federal judge. Very connected family. He drives a Tesla. Did I mention he summers in the Hamptons? I met someone named Christopher at a charity gala. Investment banker at Goldman Sachs. Wharton MBA. His portfolio is worth more than most people make in a decade. We're talking about a ski trip to Aspen for New Year's. She'd rotate through these impressive men, each one more credentialed than the last. The relationships would last long enough to introduce them at family events, long enough for everyone to be impressed, long enough for her to feel validated in her approach. Then, they'd simply want from my month. She'd cite philosophical differences, or incompatible life goals, or poor emotional availability, and she'd move on to the next impressive resume. But she never questioned her method, never wondered if maybe focusing entirely on credentials and bank accounts wasn't actually leading to meaningful human connection, never considered that perhaps the problem wasn't the men she was dating, but the criteria she was using to select them. She just kept dating, kept checking boxes, kept judging me for refusing to do the same. The mockery reached its absolute peak about 3 years ago. I'd been single for almost a year. Not looking, not avoiding, just taking time. Focusing on my career as a freelance graphic designer, strengthening friendships, traveling, learning to be content alone before looking for partnership. Amanda was at Sunday dinner at our grandmother's house. The whole extended family was there. 23 people crammed around 3 tables pushed together. She was between relationships, had just ended things with an orthopedic surgeon named Bradley, who couldn't commit to a timeline for children. The conversation inevitably turned to me. It always did. So Emma, are you seeing anyone special? Not at the moment. I'm just enjoying life right now, focusing on my work. Amanda sees the opportunity. Emma's taking a break from her string of questionable choices, which is probably wise, honestly. Maybe when she comes back to dating, she'll have better judgment. Our Aunt Jennifer laughed. Not cruelly, just going along with Amanda's well-established narrative. Emma does seem to attract the artistic types. Artistic is a generous word for it, Amanda said, and I could hear the pleasure in her voice. The satisfaction of being the expert, the successful one, the one who knew better. Impractical might be more accurate. Financially irresponsible. Professionally stagnant. Emma has a type, and that type is men who will never be able to provide stability. That's not fair, I said quietly, trying not to make a scene, trying not to ruin Sunday dinner. Isn't it? Let's review. A teacher who'll never make more than $45,000. A musician who's almost 40 and still playing coffee shops. A graduate student who's been in school for a decade. A retail manager, which, let's be honest, isn't a career path that leads anywhere meaningful. Emma, you're allergic to ambition. The people I've dated have been ambitious, just in different ways, just toward different goals. Playing the guitar at coffee houses isn't ambition. It's a hobby that doesn't pay rent. Getting a PhD in environmental science isn't ambition. It's avoiding the job market. These aren't serious men building serious lives. Being a good person matters. Being a good person doesn't build a future. You need someone stable, someone successful, someone who can actually provide security, someone who thinks about retirement accounts and mortgage payments and college funds for children. Our grandmother set down her fork. Amanda has a point, dear. At 30 years old, you really should be thinking about marriage, about starting a family, about building a life. You can't do that with someone who doesn't have their act together professionally. I wanted to argue, wanted to point out that Amanda had dated plenty of men with impressive credentials and not a single relationship had resulted in marriage. Wanted to say that maybe there was more to successful partnership than a Yale degree and a six-figure salary. But I didn't say any of that. Because in our family's eyes, Amanda was the authority, the success story, the one who understood how the world actually worked. And I was the perpetual disappointment, the one making mistakes, the one who needed guidance and correction. So I sat there, silent, ashamed, feeling like a failure for choosing connection over credentials. 8 months later, everything changed. Amanda met Trevor Matthews at a charity fundraiser for children's literacy. He was perfect, everything she'd been searching for. A lawyer at Morrison Whitfield and Associates, one of the most prestigious firms in the state. Harvard Law School. Came from what she described as an excellent family with deep roots in the legal community. Drove a Lexus. Lived in a luxury condo in the revitalized downtown district. Wore $1,000 suits and handmade Italian shoes. He checked every single box on her list. Every criterion. Every requirement. She talked about him constantly, obsessively. Trevor is exactly what I've been looking for. Successful, ambitious, from the right kind of background. He understands the importance of building something meaningful together. Building wealth. Building a family legacy. They dated for exactly 9 months. Moved quickly. Introduced each other to families. Met each other's friends. Aligned on timeline. He proposed on a weekend trip to Napa Valley, at an expensive restaurant. With an expensive ring, 3 carats, platinum setting, custom designed. Trevor had spared absolutely no expense. Amanda was euphoric. This was it. This was what she'd been working toward. After years of strategic dating and careful selection, she'd found him. The man who met all her criteria. The relationship that proved her approach had been correct all along. She announced the engagement at Sunday dinner. The whole family gathered around. She held out her hand, letting the diamond catch the light. Our aunts gasped. She announced, our grandmother cried happy tears. Our parents looked relieved that at least one of us had. figured out how to do relationships correctly. And me? I was still single, still making questionable choices in the family's eyes, still the cautionary tale of what happens when you prioritize feelings over credentials. Amanda made absolutely certain I felt the contrast. Maybe you'll meet someone at the wedding. Trevor has so many single friends, successful friends, lawyers, doctors, finance professionals. I could set you up with someone appropriate. That's okay. I'm completely serious, Emma. You need to expand your dating pool. Stop looking in coffee shops and graduate seminars. Start looking in places where successful people actually are. Trevor's friends are exactly the kind of men you should be dating. Educated, established. Real catches with real futures. Real catches, as opposed to the apparently fake ones I'd been wasting time with. The engagement party was scheduled for a Saturday evening in June. Huge event. Amanda's parents were hosting at their house, a beautiful colonial with a wraparound porch in the historic district. They'd hired caterers, set up a full bar, invited 75 guests. Everyone who mattered in both families genuinely considered not going. Invented excuses, work deadline, migraine, food poisoning. Anything that would let me avoid watching Amanda's victory lap. Watching her celebrate finding the perfect man while everyone pitied me for my string of imperfect choices. But my mother called 3 times. You absolutely have to go. She's your cousin. You grew up together. Family is important, Emma. More important than your pride. So I went. Wore a nice navy dress, brought an expensive bottle of wine, mentally prepared myself for an evening of watching Amanda glow with vindication, while fielding intrusive questions about my own perpetually disappointing love life. The party was exactly what I expected. Beautiful setup with string lights and flower arrangements, expensive catered food displayed on elegant platters, champagne flowing freely, Amanda and Trevor at the absolute center of everything, looking perfect together. The successful lawyer and his carefully selected, highly qualified bride. I positioned myself near the bar, made polite small talk with relatives I saw once a year, admired the engagement ring when required, avoided Amanda when possible, counted down the minutes until I could politely leave without seeming bitter or jealous. That's when he'd been across the room for most of the evening, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, playing the role of proud, successful groom-to-be. But I'd noticed him glancing in my direction, quick, furtive looks, like he was trying to solve a puzzle, trying to place something he couldn't quite identify. Then he walked over, deliberately, his face showing something I couldn't quite read. Confusion, worry, maybe fear. Emma, right? Amanda's cousin? That's me. Congratulations on the engagement. Thank you. Long pause. He was staring at my face, studying it. Can I ask you something? This might sound strange. Did you go to State University? For undergrad? I froze. My champagne glass stopped halfway to my lips. Yes, about 10 years ago. Why? His face went completely white, like someone had drained all the blood from his body. What year did you graduate? 2014. Why are you asking me this? He took a step back, ran his hand through his perfectly styled hair, loosened his tie like he couldn't breathe. Oh my God. I knew you looked familiar. I knew it. I'm sorry? I don't understand what's happening. We need to talk. Outside. Now. Please. His voice was urgent, almost desperate, and I was so confused I just followed him. Out the back door, into the garden, away from the party, away from Amanda, away from the 75 guests who had no idea what was about to happen. You don't remember me, Trevor said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement of fact. Should I? We dated, sophomore year of college, for about 3 months. Maybe 4. I stared at him. Tried to place his face in my college memories. Tried to remember dating someone who looked like this successful lawyer. came up completely blank. I don't remember you at all. I went by TJ back then. Trevor James. Everyone called me TJ. Morrison was my mother's maiden name. I used it all through college. TJ Morrison. Something clicked. A face emerging from 10-year-old memories. Wait, TJ Morrison? From Intro to Psychology? That's me. Oh my God, TJ Morrison. I did remember him now. Vaguely. We'd met at a party sophomore year. Hooked up, started casually dating. Nothing serious, nothing meaningful. We'd hang out, watch movies, go to parties together. It was college dating. Fun and easy, and ultimately forgettable. It had ended naturally. No drama, no big breakup. We'd both just drifted apart after a few months. Different friend groups, different interests, different trajectories. I hadn't thought about him in a decade. You went to law school, I said slowly, processing. And changed your name. Started using Trevor. Started using Matthews, my father's name. TJ Morrison felt too casual, too informal, not right for building a serious legal career. And now you're engaged to my cousin Amanda. I had no idea she was your cousin. She never mentioned your name. Never showed me family photos before tonight. I had absolutely no idea until I saw you standing across the room and thought you looked familiar. We stood in silence, the weight of implications settling between us. Does Amanda know? I asked carefully. That we dated? No. I never mentioned it. Why would I? It was 10 years ago. It was casual. It didn't mean anything significant. Then what's the problem? Why are we having this conversation? He looked absolutely miserable. The problem is that I'm not who Amanda thinks I am. What does that mean? It means she thinks I'm this perfect guy. Harvard educated, prestigious law firm, good family with deep community roots, clean background, impressive credentials. She did her due diligence on me, checked all my references, made sure I met all her requirements. But she doesn't actually know who I am, where I really came from. I don't understand. I didn't go to Harvard for undergrad. I went to State University, same as you. I was a complete mess, partied constantly, barely passed my classes, had to take an extra year to graduate because I failed so many courses. I worked at a Target for 2 years after college, trying to save money for law school. My family isn't old money legal community. My dad drove trucks. My mom cleaned houses. I grew up in a single-wide trailer on the edge of town. This was completely new information. Amanda had talked about Trevor's family. They were established society people, country club members, the kind of background that mattered, the kind that opened doors. I lied. Trevor continued. His voice was shaking, not directly, but by omission, by careful implication. I let Amanda believe certain things, didn't correct her assumptions, carefully avoided topics that would reveal the truth, because I absolutely knew that if she understood my real background, she wouldn't want me. The real background being that I'm exactly the kind of guy she spent years mocking. I came from poverty. My undergraduate degree is from a state school where I barely graduated. I worked retail management for 2 years to save money. My parents didn't contribute a single dollar to my education. I have $140,000 in student loans. My family has never been to a country club. I'm not the polished, privileged success story she thinks she's marrying. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process this information. And now you're here, he said. And you're her cousin. And you dated me when I was TJ Morrison. When I was the unsuccessful nobody she would have rejected immediately. And you could tell her everything. You could destroy my entire life with one conversation. Why would I tell her anything? Because she's been judging you for years. Amanda told me everything. All about your questionable taste in men, your pattern of dating losers, your inability to think long-term, your naive romanticism. And the whole time she was telling me these things, I was thinking, I'm one of those guys. If she'd met me 10 years ago, if she'd met TJ Morrison, the state university student who worked at Target, I would have been exactly what she avoided. But you're successful now. You worked hard. I lied about where I came from, about who my family is, about what my background looks like. That's not success. That's fraud. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't marry her like this, with you knowing, with her not knowing. It's going to come out eventually. Someone from college will recognize me. Someone will mention state. Someone will remember TJ Morrison. And when it does, she'll hate me for lying. She'll hate you for not telling her. This whole perfect thing I've built is going to collapse. So tell her yourself, before the wedding, before this goes any further. Why not? Because she'll leave me. His voice cracked. She'll realize I'm not who she thought I was, that I don't meet her standards, that my origin story is wrong, that I'm exactly the kind of person she spent her entire adult life trying to avoid. He was absolutely right. Amanda would leave him, without hesitation, without question, because Trevor Matthews, the successful Harvard lawyer, was exactly her type. But TJ Morrison from State University, who worked at Target, that was everything she'd taught herself to reject. What do you want me to do? I asked. I don't know. When I saw you, I panicked. Realized you could blow up my entire life. That you knew me when I was nobody. And I needed to talk to you. Needed to explain. I don't even know what I needed. We stood there in the garden. Him waiting for me to make a decision. Me holding information that could destroy my cousin's carefully constructed engagement. The old Emma, the Emma from 3 years ago, would have stayed quiet. Would have avoided confrontation. Would have let it play out naturally, without getting involved. But I was tired, exhausted, tired of being judged, tired of being mocked, tired of Amanda's absolute, unshakable certainty that she knew the right way to choose a partner. You need to tell her, I said firmly. Not me, you. Before the wedding. She deserves to know who she's actually marrying. She'll leave me. Maybe. Probably. But if you don't tell her and she finds out later, she'll definitely leave you. And she'll never forgive the deception. At least if you tell her now, you give her the choice. What if I'm too afraid? I looked at him. This successful lawyer in his expensive suit. This man who Amanda thought was perfect. Terrified of being rejected for not being perfect enough. Then you're marrying someone you fundamentally can't be honest with. And that's not a real partnership. That's a performance. I walked back inside, left him in the garden with his choice, went to the bar, got another glass of champagne. Amanda found me 15 minutes later, glowing, radiant, completely happy. There you are! I've been looking everywhere! Where did you disappear to? Just needed some air. Well, I want you to really meet Trevor. You two should actually talk, get to know each other properly, since you'll basically be family soon. I looked past her. Trevor had come back inside. He was standing near the fireplace, talking to someone but watching us, his face still pale, still terrified. Actually, I said carefully, I think Trevor and I should talk. There's something he needs to tell you. Amanda's smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? Ask him about his undergraduate degree, about where he grew up, about his family background. Really ask. Don't assume. I know all that. Did he tell you explicitly? Or did you fill in blanks based on implications? Her smile disappeared completely. What are you talking about, Emma? Just ask him. Really ask him. See if the answers match what you think you know. I left her there, confused, suspicious, watching Trevor with new, uncertain eyes. I didn't stay for the rest of the party. Couldn't. Watch what happened next. Drove home, poured myself wine, waited. The call came at 11:30 that night. Amanda, crying, furious, devastated. You knew. she said through tears. You knew and you didn't tell me. Knew what? That Trevor lied, that his entire background was fabricated, that he's not who he said he was. What did he tell you? Everything. After you left, I confronted him, asked the questions you suggested, and he completely broke down. Told me the truth. About state, about his family, about working at Target, about his student loans, about dating you when he was some loser named TJ. We barely dated. That's not the point. The point is he's exactly the kind of person I've been avoiding my entire life. The kind I've told you to avoid. And I almost married him without knowing. So what now? The engagement is off, obviously. I can't marry someone who lied to me, who let me believe he was something he's not. He didn't exactly lie. He just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing, is it? Or did you create a narrative based on limited information and he just didn't challenge it because he was afraid you'd reject him? Whose side are you on? I'm not on a side. I'm pointing out that Trevor is genuinely successful. He did work hard. He does have a prestigious career. The only thing he hid was his origin story. And he probably hid it because he correctly predicted you'd reject him for it. Of course, I have standards. Standards that reject people for things they can't control, like poverty. What school gave them a degree? What their parents did for work. That's not fair, isn't it? You've spent years mocking me for dating people who didn't meet your standards. Teachers, musicians, graduate students, retail workers. And it turns out the man you chose, the one who checked every box, was one of those people. He just hid it well enough to pass your test. Silence on the other end. Maybe the problem isn't who people used to be, I continued. Maybe it's judging them for where they came from, instead of who they became. You're saying I'm shallow. I'm saying your criteria missed what actually mattered. What should I do? That's your choice. But if you're ending the engagement, end it because you don't love him, not because his resume has a typo. The engagement ended that week. Amanda called it off. Told Trevor she couldn't marry someone who'd been dishonest. Told the family there were fundamental incompatibilities. But she didn't tell them the real reason. Didn't admit she'd almost married someone who didn't meet her stated standards. Didn't confess that her perfect choice had turned out to be exactly what she'd taught me to avoid. The family was confused but supportive, disappointed but understanding. These things happen. But something shifted. Amanda stopped mocking my choices, stopped offering advice, stopped lecturing about standards and credentials. She couldn't. Not anymore. Not after discovering her perfect choice wasn't actually perfect. That was 2 years ago. I'm dating someone wonderful, a social worker named Ben who makes $48,000 a year, doing meaningful work with at-risk youth. Exactly the kind of person Amanda would have mocked mercilessly 3 years ago. But she doesn't. She asks about him respectfully, listens when I talk about our relationship, seems genuinely happy for me. Amanda is single, dating occasionally, but differently. Less focus on resumes, more on connection. Still has standards, just different ones. She and Trevor never reconciled. Last I heard, he's dating someone who knows his whole story. All of it. And loves him anyway. As for me, I learned that judgment reveals more about the judge than the judged. That people who mock your choices are often compensating for their own fears. That perfect-looking relationships aren't always perfect underneath. My cousin mocked my relationship choices for years, made me feel like I was doing everything wrong, until her fiancé revealed his past. And she realized the perfect man she'd chosen was exactly the kind of person she'd taught me to avoid. The irony wasn't lost on anyone.